Well, hello to you. As promised, I am gonna keep up the venomous snake content in 2026 too. There we go. And we're starting off with the death adder, the Acanthophis rugosus. Look at her go. Of course, she always likes to hold on to the mice. And from these kind of twitchy movements she's doing with her head, you can tell that she is still dumping in that neurotoxic venom, which is gonna kill that mouse in no time at all. I can assure you that. It's gonna paralyze the prey item. But it is very interesting to see, because in regards to the human bite victims, it is known that the neurotoxins are acting much slower than all the usual venom components that the vipers have, you know, the hemotoxins and the cytotoxins. Those are gonna act pretty much the second you are getting bitten, you know, you're gonna feel that venom. That's very different to what the death adder experience would be like if we were to get bitten. There are cases known where people felt that venom kick in hours later from when the actual bite happened, so you can't be too sure if it's a dry bite or not until the symptoms kick in, and then it's gonna be very dangerous, of course. But of course, on the other hand, the fact that the death adder venom is acting so slow does give you much more time to, actually get in the hospital and get the proper medical attention. So I would actually argue, even though this is one of the most venomous snakes drop for drop, that I personally would much more rather get bitten by this snake than, for example, the sharp-nosed viper or the Russell's viper. That's just my personal opinion. Obviously, I don't want to get bitten at all. So, Mr. Crotalus helleri is going to be hungry for sure, see? He tagged that mouse already, and already a second time too. Look at that, you can already see that venom taking over, but I think that's not going to stop him from still trying to strike at it. He's kinda crazy in that regard. You know, the snakes, they are able to calculate their venom and deliver the exact dose they think that is sufficient to kill the mice, you know. But he just likes to dump in as much venom as possible, it seems. And I have even seen him strike at mice that were already dead, so he is just a bit special in that regard. He just is a bit of an exception, because I've even seen a comment of someone who said, of course, snakes are not able to calculate their venom. That's an idiotic statement. And I'm like, this is not even some like information that you would need to study the proper literature or anything. I feel like even Google would tell you, if you would ask Google, can venomous snakes calculate their venom, even Google would probably tell you that of course they are able to, and it is necessary for them to be, you know, able to do that, since otherwise they wouldn't be able to conserve their venom to, for example, defend themselves against a predator after they already, you know, taken down a prey item. Now have a look at that, guys. This is the Trimeresurus insularis, of course. The blue pit viper. And sadly I didn't manage to capture the actual strike this time. Usually when I try to record him, I have to tongue feed him, because otherwise if I would just let the rodent run around, then he would get distracted with the camera, and it seemed a bit unsafe and unnecessarily stressful. So I just put the mice in and covered him up, but he struck it right away. So I still decided to give you a little bit of footage from him, as he's just way too beautiful to not show on the channel every time I get a chance to. See, I got a really nice grip on that mouse, which seems like it died already. But look at that, a blue pit viper with dark red eyes and a red tail too. Absolutely stunning. And they originate all the way from the Komodo Islands in Southeast Asia. And they have to be, just color-wise, one of the most beautiful venomous snakes for sure, or even one of the most beautiful out of all snakes. No doubt about it. So I hope you still enjoyed watching him for a moment, and let's keep on feeding some other snakes. So this is of course ooh, it already was the strike. Look at that. That's the albino prairie rattlesnake, the Crotalus viridis. And I'm not even too sure which exact subspecies she is, but she struck the mouse a second time too. Look at that. That mouse is already feeling the venom. I think it's acting a bit slowly. See? Very interesting. And she is still keeping a close eye on it. See? Maybe she will try to strike it again. She is also an individual that may or may not strike a few times. That mouse is definitely a bit confused from that venom, see? It hasn't taken full effect, but the rodent seems to be a little bit kinda drunk from that venom, if you get what I mean. See, it's just kinda frozen back there. It doesn't want to move. But we're gonna see just how long that venom will take to you know, take full effect. Let's see. It is definitely still alive. Look, it's doing just fine, but now it's just going to freeze again. See, not the usual reaction from that venom. You need to keep in mind that Crotalus viridis, they have a bunch of different venom components, even some neurotoxins too, alongside the usual you know, hemotoxins that most rattlesnakes do have in North America. I think she's definitely going to strike at it again. She's looking a bit impatient, as if she doesn't want to... ooh, look at that. That's a nice yawn right there. Or maybe she's going to do a second one. But it does seem like the mouse is just kind of stuck right there. Maybe it has to do with the neurotoxins. The thing is, usually, of course, the mice, they start to panic as soon as they feel that venom and start running around. But that's only going to make the whole process much quicker, because when a heart rate picks up, obviously, you know, the venom within the blood flow is going to get pumped through the system of the mouse much quicker as well. So if the rodent just stays still like that, maybe that's going to, you know, lengthen out the process, but we are going to see. Ooh, she attacked it again. Yeah, I think that's going to be it with that third strike. See? Yeah, she definitely got much more venom into the mouse with that last one. See, I feel like the first two strikes were a bit suboptimal. Oftentimes it's not only the amount of venom that she's able to deliver, but also the bite placement, of course, which you know, does make the difference. Let's see here. I think that's it right there. Yep. She's not going to strike it again. Just gonna put it right there. So now she can start eating it right away. And let's move on to the next snake then. Boom. Yeah, the copperheads, they never waste any time at all. See, it's always how they roll. The second the mice get thrown in, they already are on it. Look at that. And this is the broad-banded copperhead right there, the Agkistrodon laticinctus, which is now considered a separate species from the quote-unquote normal copperheads, the Agkistrodon contortonix. And I feel like these laticinctus, they are of course much more beautiful. Have a look at that nice kinda reddish brown contrast. Looks very pretty for sure. This is the female one that I have. I've had the male in the last video, I think, if I remember correctly. She's going to enjoy that little snack for sure. The copperheads, they eat pretty much all year, I feel like, if you don't give them the hibernation, which they don't necessarily need, as long as you take control of the temperatures properly. So, lancehead viper time. This is the Bothrops atrox. And that is going to be a very nice and big meal for her, actually. The lancehead vipers, they do have a large appetite, but they are rather slim snakes. Oh, there we go. They have a very slim body build and they get overfed very quickly, so we need to kind of tone it down with the feeding with these lancehead vipers, I feel like. Oh, there we go. The thing is, she would probably eat every other day, even if I would let her. Of course, at that point, she would probably just have to regurgitate the food, because it would be way too much. But she does have that big of an appetite. She's still a rather young individual, and still I only feed her maybe every 3 to 5 weeks. You need to keep in mind that these snakes spend most of their time just sitting in an ambush position, and they don't require much energy at all. Like she just likes to sit in that exact spot right there, curled up like that, for weeks on end. And she would do the exact same thing in the wild too. They do it to not blow their cover, of course, because the snakes, they almost have no smell on them. And if they don't move around, they pretty much just blend in with their environment and become almost invisible for the prey. On the other hand, it does mean, of course, that they have to rely on the food to come to them, basically, and that it has to almost walk right past them to be within reach. But therefore, they also are able to, again, preserve much of their energy and are able to go without food for months on end. Oh, look, she has a bit of that spectrum moss still stuck in her mouth again. But she's going to get it out too. So seems like that mouse is done, so let's move on. So this is the striped morph pygmy rattlesnake again. The Sistrurus milliarius baburi. Oh, there we go. So it's commonly called the dusky pygmy rattlesnake, I think. There are, of course, a few different species and subspecies of the pygmy rattlesnake. But I feel like the milliarius baburi is probably the most commonly kept one in captivity. But all the pygmy rattlesnakes do make for very good pets, in my opinion. At least if you can look past the fact that they are venomous, of course. And that you can't interact with them in certain ways, therefore. But the thing is, even if you were to get bitten by one of these, it wouldn't be too bad, I guess. At least for a pit viper. Like, I personally have never heard from a case of someone dying from a pygmy rattlesnake bite. It certainly would be not a very pleasant experience though, and it may cause so much pain that you wish that you were dead, but it probably isn't potent enough to actually kill a human, or rather due to them being such small snakes and having a comparably small yield as well. Maybe they just aren't able to deliver enough venom. But look at him, he is already kinda looking around to see if he can already get to that mouse. And I have seen people claim that they have problems with feeding the pygmy rattlesnakes, especially with the larger prey items, that they would regurgitate them. But I have never experienced that at all. Like, I feed mine with adult mice, and they eat them just fine, as you can tell from my videos probably already. Hello. I'm gonna stay inside. He is just a bit curious. But I am going to cover him up now. See, I always put on this tape on the top of the bins, you know, so I can put it on without having my fingers on the side and take a bite. So now for the rest of the video we are going to feed some non-venomous snakes. Starting off with one that I didn't even show on the channel before, I think. There we go, you can see him now. This is of course a sandboa, a Gongylophis colubrinus. And he is an albino too. There we go, look at him. He has a nice good grip on that mouse. He is of course a constrictor and again not a venomous snake. The sandboas, they are perfectly harmless and they make for very good pets. But they are very, well, not necessarily bad eaters, but they take breaks, you know. Or at least the males do. He is an adult male specimen and he maybe is going to eat very well for a few months and then he is going to stop again. But that's perfectly normal because that's how they do it in the wild too. The males, they have a season where they are eating and then in another season they just look around for females and don't have any appetite at all, believe it or not. But he actually killed that mouse already. Very nice. So, and I am going to give him a second one. He is already big and fat, but just because, of course, in the time that he is not eating, he is slimming down always a bit. I always make sure that during the seasons that he is still eating, that he is going to get a lot of big proper meals, see? Very nice. And now you can nicely see that he is a male. If you look how long the tail is, you can very easily tell apart the males from the females in the sandboas just by looking at how long the tails are. The males have longer tails in comparison to the short and stubby tails from the females. And also the females are much larger in almost all sandboa species. It's very interesting. The males sometimes are only half the size and weight of the females. But maybe that also has to do with the fact that the males just don't eat that much and also don't put all the energy into the growth they get from the food, you know. Look at that, it's just always amazing to see just how quickly the constrictors are able to kill the prey. It's just as humane, quote unquote, as the venomous snakes, or even more so maybe, I don't know. It certainly depends. Hello. Oh, you can look at him now, see? Isn't he pretty? Very nice snakes to have. So, and last but definitely not least is my ball python, my Ivory male. Look at him. Boom. There we go. That's what a very hungry ball python looks like. And that's a very good grip from him too. Very precise. Let's see. And you can tell that he is putting on some good size. These mice start to be just a small snack for him. I'm definitely going to give him another one. I feel like in a few months maybe I will have to give him 4 or 5 at a time for him to be fully saturated. And the ball pythons, they do take breaks from feeding too. He just didn't take one yet. He's again a very good eater and he never skips meals, even when he is in chat. But he's still young, so maybe that's going to change when he is adult. Let's see. So, as promised to him, he is going to get a second snack. And boom, there we go. Let's see here. Ooh, there we go. It was a very nice strike too. Look how precise he is though. Right behind the head where the mouse can't reach him. Of course, the constrictors, they would be more at risk at getting injured by the prey items when they try to fight back, because they of course have to get up close and personal. However, from my experience, it really isn't too big of a threat if you always keep an eye on your snakes while you are feeding them. And I do know several keepers, also another ball python keeper who has over 50 ball pythons, believe it or not, and he feeds all of them live, and he just throws in the live mice and covers them up and takes a look at them later actually. And he said to me that he never had any problems with snakes getting injured, and I do believe him. I have seen very very well fed, big and fat looking ball pythons that were caught in the wild, and you would think that if the prey items, the very defensive ones in the wild especially, would pose that big of a risk to the animals, that these wild caught ball pythons would be all scoured up and so on, but they aren't. They look perfectly fine. And I just think that some people, they do underestimate just how efficient the snakes are when it comes to taking down the prey. After all, in the wild, they never encounter any frozen thawed dead meals that they can just, safely consume. They will always have to kill their food before they eat it. And that's what they are, what their instincts tell them at the end of the day.